ABSL Summit. Transform to thrive.
Welcome all. Hope you enjoyed the last talk, and please get ready to participate in a Menti as we go through this. It's meant to be interactive. But I'm delighted to be joined here by Janusz, who is all familiar to you.
No, I am delighted to be joined here by Paul.
So we're going to have a fireside chat. We're going to talk, exchange some points, but then we're going to hand it over to you midway for some Menti input. So please be alert and engage as we go along. So I'm going to kick off the discussion, if I may.
Go ahead.
You know, over the last 2 years, we've seen a lot of growth in the sector here. I'd be really impressed as I read the report and what has come out with it. It's been excellent. We're clearly at a crossroads, right? And the whole theme of the show talks about transform to thrive, okay? But how do we transform? Is it an option or a necessity? And what happens if you don't?
That's a pretty grim question because everybody knows, everybody kind of feels like you have no choice. This is the reason why we came up with this title of the conference, to transform to thrive. And reality is, Paul, that over the last 2-3 years, we are transforming. We are doing a lot of things, and we are talking a lot about these things.
Yeah.
We are doing a little bit. The reality is we are not doing sufficiently. I think we are not doing enough. And a little bit of a discussion that we have these days is to shake us up, leaders, the managers and the leaders that are in the room, to accelerate. And the consequence of not doing that is that next report is not going to be so bright.
Yeah.
To put it plainly.
Thank you. We're here for plain speaking. But just to build on that, if I may.
Please go.
Paint some scenarios for me. What will happen if we do transform? What's the prize and the opportunity?
If we do transform, we will not be, first of all, we would not be measuring the number of employees anymore.
Yes.
That would be completely secondary thing. We would be able to measure in a credible way the value add per person, like, for example, GDP produced per person. And we will be measuring by number of highly advanced processes to be based right here. Now, it's easy to say, it's much more difficult to be done. If we excel, however, which was your question, we will see inflow of the FDI, and we will see more global roles being based directly here to influence the global agenda, headquarters agenda, versus being executor of somebody else's decided agenda. Then, if we don't do that, I'm afraid the charts are going to go down. We will saturate. We will have probably a little bit of a lead time for a few years, but make no mistake, the time to react is now. Actually, the time to react was yesterday. So this is it. That's what I'm afraid is going to happen if we don't do that.
Yeah. Good point.
All right?
Yeah.
Can I fire back? It's
Please
a
do.
fire.
Yeah,
it's a fire chat.
Fire drill. Yeah.
Now, we are very proud of everything that we have achieved. 5% GDP, 7% of employment, brilliant. But how do you look at that? You're traveling the world, you've been based in Singapore for many, many years, and you work with lots of companies.
Yeah.
How do you perceive that success from the outside? How do you perceive and do you recognize the success? And what you think about back of your head when you look what's happening?
And maybe you want to get ready with the Menti.
Oh, yeah. Why? We,
Sorry.
we agreed something, and of course I forgot. I'm taken apart by the great discussion. Why don't you grab your phones? And here we have a question for you. What should we do in order to excel in transformation of our business model? And you have a couple of options. Go to Menti, scan the code, and start voting while we'll continue talking. So, Paul, the question, your external view on the success. Be critical. Yeah.
So first of all, I applaud you all. And the number and the quality of roles that you have represent the room, represent the impact you have within your organization. So well done. But as I reflect and as I look at the capability here, I ask myself, you know, if I look at capabilities in other countries in Europe or even in India, what's the USP for setting up business services here in Poland?
The unique selling
proposition. And that's a key thing that we really got to look at. You know, it was a really good discussion yesterday on AI and Gen AI. And it's clear to me versus another conference, you're testing and piloting more here. But you really got to move the needle and really decide, what are we going to be known for? Clearly, we'll have the technical skills here. And I say we because I feel part of it after 2 days. But really, you know, what are the services? Is it good enough just to own the value-added services? how are we going to then make an impact and contribute back on head office? So you're not just owning part of the process and the platform. So I think that's a key thing that if I flip it around, there's a number of leadership capabilities that you should be looking to build in your team to step up. And that's a key thing I'm looking at.
Now let me do a little follow-up.
Please.
It's going to be easy to give me a good example of the unique selling proposition and a bad example of the unique selling proposition. Is, for example, I'm going to build high value added services. Is it specific enough, right?
Yeah. No, it's not.
Okay,
it needs to be more. I'm going to do high value added services in fintech and financial services. I'm going to be known for this in life science. And we talked earlier, I spent a number of years in Singapore. So Singapore, very developed market, high cost, but they were very clear on what are we going to be known for. So they're very much known on manufacturing R&D, and they put in the regulatory support on that. They're going to be known for financial services. They knew in business services they weren't going to compete, but what they identified 10 years ago was, we're going to be known for analytics. And they tied up all of the universities to build the courses. They identified 50 businesses with regional head offices and capabilities operating in Singapore, and they provided them with that infrastructure of talent and investment accordingly. And as the key here is really looking at, well, what do we in here want to be known for, and how do we set that up? We talked about experience. Because automation, it'll progressively get better. Gen AI is going to really move the needle. But then really what industry, what scope of services are we going to be known for? Like, I was reading recently, Denmark is knowing more now for the electronic gaming development. Right? That's a very narrow example. But I think here it's then, what do we want to build? What's the infrastructure? And then how do we export that accordingly?
Would the end-to-end process in the digital supply chain, specifically to tackle, I don't know, shelf to cash, would this be a good example?
That's a great example.
All right.
Yeah, because, no, well done, and your job is safe. But the point would be, it is in the lead to cash is a great example, because that impacts many markets. It's very fragmented. Record to report, it's standard. But lead to cash, then you're really getting into influence, you're getting into execution, you're getting into organization alignment. And you're embedding in the infrastructure of the organization end to end, not just in the execution of part of that service.
Let's see the results of your voting. I think we should definitely wait and be first to respond and adapt. I'm very happy this has only 2%. This is brilliant. And then, interestingly enough, proactive experiment. We heard a lot about risking, be bold coming forward, and contribution higher value. Are you surprised? Are you happy with these results?
I would hope to see it flipped around.
Between the yellow and the pink.
Yellow and the pink. Because I think the key thing is, we should be looking to make a step change. If you look at automation, Gen AI, data, GPO, it's the step change. And if we can have our teams making that step change, then we can control more of the processes, end to end, and how it's executed.
Let me challenge you. How can you step change and move to the higher value processes if you are uncertain how to do it? You need to be bold and experiment.
Thank you. Keep going. We'll ask you a comment later.
Get ready.
You're the only one who clapped. But yes, you do have to bold. Look, you need to have that incubation, but you need to then step, have the ambition, the North Star to make the step change, right? You're running fast in a flywheel for the 60%. Your 38% is really moving the needle and re-engaging with the organization.
So we have a way to go.
A little bit to go, but we're heading in the right direction. We won't ask who the 2% is.
This time.
Okay, so for the report, 75% of sector leaders declare they're introducing a transformation strategy. 48% believe that the transformation of the model in the next 5 years will be significant. Now, I personally feel that 5 years is too long. We need to be thinking 3 years. That's the time horizon, okay? But, Janusz, how would you define this transformation of the model? What is it?
We kind of did not exactly prearrange this, right?
Really.
I will come back to the first part, which is we talk about this a lot, all right? And we are very good in making declarations, like this one. 75% is a big number.
It is.
Now, 48% within 5 years is a very low number.
Yeah.
Which means this answer is self-conflicting a little bit, and that makes me worried.
Yeah.
Because if we declare that we are making, 75% of us are making a real change in transforming the model, transforming this from the business content, transforming this from the technology adoption, transforming this from the leadership style point of view, how come then in 5 years we're going to make it even bigger? 5 years, for me, it's like eternity.
Yeah.
I come back to the discussion that Mr. Dragan told us about it's not the steep curve, it's a vertical curve. We have no time. So I think venues like this, the events like that, and the call to action with all the insights should trigger us to come back to the office, not on Monday, tomorrow, to start doing this now. Yeah. And coming back to your previous question, if we don't do that, then we'd better do that.
Yeah, we'll move to the next one.
Yeah.
Cool. All right.
All right, fire chat. Let's go to the talent.
Yeah.
We are talking about, also in the report, we were using the term, we used this before, the GPO, the Global Process Owner. In the report we said that global process ownership is essential for the true process ownership and for ability to drive it and transform it. Kind of makes sense. At the same time, 56% of respondents tell us they have none of such capabilities. 0. I'll repeat. 55% of us say, yeah, we want to go on the transformation journey. Global process owners, nothing. 10% say about a quarter of their employees, about their leaders and managers, possess that knowledge and experience. Transforming in this environment is a real challenge. How can you...
Look, clearly this is a big risk, right? And these are capabilities we need to have in place. Because it's not just about executing what we're doing in the center, but it's about actually how can we improve it and transform it. And there are a number of key skills that we need to look at to build it right. So continuous improvement. We all to have a continuous improvement, right? But actually, how many achieve a step change? Is 5% per year good enough, or should it be 7 to 9%?
Good question.
Right? Particularly with IPA, Gen AI, etc. And the pressure is going to come from corporate. I want to see more for less. That's a key thing.
Do you see headquarters trying to retain global process owners?
Yeah.
Because they're smart and they know if they let this go, then something will happen?
Clearly, there's the influence versus the execution, right? So for the process owner, they want to be, a corporate needs to be able to trust that person is doing this in the context of the firm's strategy and executing end to end. And the concern would be if I let this go to a remote location, right? How do I really influence it? Now, I do the flip side when we look at this. Actually, first of all, our process owners need to be end to end, because that's the opportunity to break down the functional silos, right? You know, your order to cash as opposed to AOR and cash collection. But the key thing then is really building out not just the process execution, but the data. Because at the end of the day, data is going to differentiate because it enables decisions to be made faster and underpinning it with the policies as well. But then that's the capabilities we need to be having here, right? Number one, the GPO model with the right responsibility to say to head office, actually, we've got this. We've got the right principles, we've got the right skills, we've got the strategy, and we can execute this. And we will come and report to you, or update you. But more importantly, we're going to come and challenge you to move more work and actually simplify it more end to end. And that's where the GPO then can play a step change then on experience as opposed to process efficiency. And that's the other key thing we need to have a change in. So then the key thing for you as leaders, are you building those skills now in your teams? For you to go back to head office, right? And say, you know what? We're doing this now, but we want to do this more end to end.
But what's the trick? It's easy to say, give me more GPO responsibility, I'm great, right?
Yeah.
In reality, you have no idea what you're talking about sometimes, right? So practically. First step, first 2 steps.
Yeah. First, practically, great point.
Practically.
Yeah, fair as that. First of all, is actually putting the clear process model in place. So people
understand what we are talking about.
Yeah, we understand the steps and how vary. Then you have your sort of process visibility, which could be process mining. Then you have your continuous improvement, or your operational excellence, underpinned with Lean Six Sigma and the data. They're the practical steps to put in place. Then if you say, we see this variation and this, here are the changes we're advocating back for you.
And then demonstrate the fact that you understand and demonstrate the proxy and the benefit when we change it the way we recommend, right?
Yes, exactly, yeah. And that's the key thing.
I'm looking at this as well.
We
said
well.
We could be talking for another hour, yeah?
All right, we're going to go to a second Menti, if we could just call it up.
Yes, let's take the second Menti. Go ahead, Paul.
The key thing, right, we've seen a lot of cuts, right, and cost pressures over the last few years, which are impacting our centers in terms of ability to grow and expand. What is being done by successful companies, and how do they manage to respond to these pressures? So yet again, if you notice, we've got a Menti quiz coming up, if you could just go. So we're just talking about, for you, right, what do you see as the most important steps to transform to change?
Yeah. Practically
now. Yeah.
Question about the cuts. In fact, we were a bit worried over last quarter, maybe half a year, when the news of reductions, when the news of job cuts started to hit in. First of all, I would like to put this in perspective. Because if you see the number of growth that is put in our report, which is more than, if I remember, between 16 to 17,000 new jobs net were added to the market. So that's clearly a growth. At the same time, the reduction was, if I add everything together, right, this is the net result, it will be between 2,000 to 3,000 max. So it's not a disaster, it's a wake-up call.
Yeah.
And this wake-up call tells us that you need to really seriously take charge of these changes, not to read them in the report, but proactively think, if I am in the job of making decisions, right, where would I cut?
Yeah.
And then rather than wait for this to happen to you, is like, fine, if this is my company, this role, this person, not really coming to the office, not really present, I'm not quite sure what he or she is doing, can I replace that job with something? That puts you in the driving seat. And this is another trait of the leader that should be brave enough and provocative enough.
Yeah.
I remember my quote, and I work in the 3 companies back, okay? And this quote was, your job, to my team, your job is to make your work redundant every 5 years. And initial reaction was like, I would repeat this. Your job is to make your work redundant every single year.
Yeah. And that time horizon is reducing quite a bit, and it will continue.
With the curve going.
Exactly, yeah. Okay, we're getting towards the end. Do we have time for another question? Oh, let's see the Menti results.
Relevant business skill set of our people, like GPOs. The leaders are driving the change. I love this. Technology adoption. Are you surprised? No, this is me to say if I'm surprised.
Yeah.
No, that's exactly what I expected this time.
Yeah.
I think the yellow bar is the starting point. It all starts with people in the rooms. Oh, guys, I'm super proud of you.
I think it's important to think through, though, what are leaders, i.e. you, going to do to drive the change? What does it mean? And maybe that's one for next year's report. How do we break down that change that we need? What are the skills and capabilities? Because it's not just about process execution or the technical skills, it's about the leadership attributes as well. Anyway, in the interest of time, maybe we can do the final question.
Let's do it. Let's do it. Where's my final question?
Yeah.
So, in order to transform to thrive, which is the title of the summit, by the way, if anybody did not notice, what could be your provocative call to action to the people in the audience? Like, scare us a little bit? Yeah, scare us a little bit.
Look, as I work with multinationals, and we do a lot of GBS or business service strategy, what services am I going to place where? How am I going to scale it, right? And I work
like a location strategy or hubbing strategy.
But even you will have hubs, and what do I scale more, right? We have critical mass here, which is fantastic. How do we actually evolve it, right? And it's not just, as you said, about FTEs. As we move into value-added services, how do we own more of that capability end-to-end and really driving it from the process execution, the data services, the security, and the experience? right? And there's a couple of key things we need. Number one, we need the skills, as we talked about GPOs and the execution. Number two, we need our leaders to be bold, working with corporates to give them the confidence that we can do more of this. You can give the work here, rather than moving it to an India or another part of Europe. And as new services come out, you're anticipating that. And I think there's a couple of things you should look at for your centers. Number one, do we have the right sales and marketing to market the services that you're doing? Number one, to the countries, but also to head office. That's really important. That's not about setting up a whole marketing department, but being very clear on branding and USP.
And communication.
And communication, yeah. Secondly, being at the table as you're looking. So as you look at the annual plan and the 3-year planning, that you're actually part of that rather than receiving it afterwards and saying, here's what we're going to do. But you're shaping with your functions with head office, because then you see what the new M&A and et cetera is going to be.
And communication.
And communication.
Did you enjoy it?
I did.
I did, absolutely. Did you enjoy it?
Yeah.
Wonderful.
All right.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Thanks a lot, man.
Well done.